All right, now pleased to be joined by none other than Oregon head coach Dana Altman. Dana, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you?
Good. I appreciate you doing this. And now it's almost a formality now, and I never thought I'd say this, to put Oregon in the top 25. Every year, I think there's that like Dana Altman respect that no matter who you have coming back, and you've earned it. You know, it started when you were certainly at Creighton, and what you've done at Oregon over the years has been nothing short of very, very impressive. So top 25 again, preseason. I don't know if you like that or don't like it, because then the expectations are, you always want to overachieve per the expectations, don't you?
Well, we've got a good group, and, we've had good players here. We had good players at Creighton. And so, when you get guys that are talented and want to be part of a winning team, then you have a chance to have something special. And, fortunately, the last few groups we've had, they just really wanted to win, whether it was Peyton's teams and Chris Duarte and Eugene last year, LJ, those guys, they were all just came here to win, and those guys are real easy to work with, Jeff. And I think we got a good group this year. We got a long ways to go. We're not playing very well right now. We're not sharing the ball well, and just a lot of things to work on. But eventually, I like the guys, and I think they want to do the right thing. So I think eventually we could have a good team.
All right. So you mentioned Chris, who you lost, but you lost your, I think, top three scores from last year.
With Eugene and LJ. Yeah, those were our top three scorers. And Eugene, Jeff gave us unbelievable leadership. He was old. He was a fifth year guy, and man, did he give us great leadership, just all about the team, all about winning. And so was Chris and LJ. They like I said, we had three seniors there that did a great job, and Amari Hardy was about winning. So we lost four really good seniors there, and so it'd be hard to replace.
Well, you went to the portal like everybody else to do it, right? I mean, combination though. Let's start with the returning guys first, if we can. And
Sure.
Certainly Will Richardson's going to be a huge piece. Eric Williams transferred in from Duquesne a couple of years ago, and then Nafali Dante. Kind of give me what you expect from that group coming back.
Well, we need Eric and Will to lead. Will's been a part of two Pac-12 championships. He's been to the Sweet 16 twice. The one year it was canceled on us, we had a chance, we felt like, to have a good run there. Eric's been here for 2 years, starting his third season. So those guys have been around. Dante's been with us for 2 years. Frank Capang, Frank's going to be a good player for us. He came in at Christmas time last year. I think he'll add something. Luke Orr's been here for 2 years, getting ready to play. And so we've got those five guys back, and, they've seen us win a lot of games, so I would hope that that group would give us some carryover for Pac-12 games, for the way we want to do things here. And, it is a good group. When we get Dante back, Jeff, he gives us a dimension that nobody else on our team does, because he can really score with his back to the basket. And Frank's getting better at it. But Dante's just a little further along offensively than Frank.
What's the latest? I know he tore his ACL last year. I don't remember how many games in, 6 games in.
Yeah. He only played 6 games for us last year and had successful surgery, and he's worked his tail off to get back. We anticipate that he'll be back sometime in December.
Okay.
But he will miss the November games for us.
So again, now we'll go to the portal, because everybody goes to the portal, right? You've done it well over the years. And this year, no different. And I thought you did great with I'm a huge Quincy Guerrier fan. Huge. I really think, again, he was super productive at Syracuse. And you got 3 guys out of the portal that weren't just productive. Harmon, Quincy, and Jacob Young, but they all were on good teams. Like they're all
well coached, Jeff. Yes. You bring those guys in, and You mentioned Quincy. We thought we had Quincy 2 years ago out of high school. We recruited him hard, and he decided to go to Syracuse. But no, he's been well coached. The things we do defensively are a lot different than what Syracuse does. But as far as being, attention to detail and wanting to do the right things, Quincy's, been in the gym a lot. Davion from Oklahoma, Coach Kruger, really one of the best coaches ever in the country. And so Davion's been well coached. And then Jacob Young's been well coached, at Texas with Shaka, and then at Rutgers, those guys won last year and he was a part of that. So you're right. We get three guys there that have been in great programs with great coaches. Now it's just a matter of doing it a little differently, the way we do it. Every program's a little different, but they've all been in quality programs and come to us, ready to play.
How do you anticipate using Quincy? Like, what have you he's versatile, certainly.
Yeah.
And, you're going to take advantage of that versatility.
Without a doubt, because we have some added size this year, we can play differently than we played a year ago. Last year, we were kind of a one-trick pony. We were small and played that way. Frank gave us a little size, but we played pretty small most of the time. This year we can go a little bigger, and play Quincy Summit some three and a wing spot for us. And then, I like his mismatches at the four, kind of like we used Dylan Brooks and Eugene last year and different guys, Luke King before that, guys that were skilled and could shoot the three and play him at a four spot. And he's really capable of doing that. But, the thing that really impresses me about him, Jeff, is, he's a good rebounder, and he averaged 8 rebounds a game for Syracuse. And, I've just noticed his instincts to go get the ball. Last year when we had, our Achilles heels, against big teams, we didn't rebound the ball. And I'm hoping playing a little bigger this year with Frank and Dante and Nate Biddle and Isaac Johnson, that Quincy can really be a difference maker on the boards for us.
Does this, to you, look like it's going to be a balanced team? I mean, again, you had a couple of guys average 17 last year in Eugene and Chris, and then there was kind of a drop. How do you kind of envision this team? I mean, I look at it and I say to myself, all these guys, I mean, the 3 transfers all should be able to average in double figures. Will, double figures. Eric, I feel like you got 5 or 6 proven guys who have already done it.
Yeah, all 5 of those guys you just mentioned averaged double figures, a year ago. And so I think we will be balanced like we were. We had 5 double-figure scores last year. Obviously, Chris Duarte and Eugene led us at 17, but the other 3, LJ, Eric, and Will, were all right, in double figures also. So we had that a year ago, and I think we're going to be balanced again. And then if Dante and Frank and Nate can give us some things inside, Isaac, those 4 guys can, really give us a boost inside. None of them are really big, other than Frank is very physical. Nate and Isaac, little slender build. But no, I think we can be really balanced, and our depth should be good. We've got multiple ball handlers, which is always good. Somebody's got a great defender. We could put the ball in somebody else's hands and let him make plays. So we got multiple ball handlers. I think our 3-point production, we were very productive from the 3 last year. We had a lot of good 3-point shooters, and and we have the last couple of years, that we've been able to win the league. Peyton shot the heck out of it, and Anthony Mathis for us, and Will's 40-some% 3-point shooter. So, if we can shoot the 3 well with those guys, that also gives us, another dimension.
You're 2'7", you brought in 2 7-footers, freshmen. You mentioned Nate and Isaac. Nate coming out of Oregon, Isaac coming out of Utah, correct?
Yes.
And they're both, I mean, again, I would assume your hope is not to have to play him a ton this year if Nafali comes back and he's healthy. Are those guys ready at all to be contribute? I mean, you figure they're going to play some, and what's the difference in their games?
Well, Nate's probably a little further along just because Isaac was on his mission for the last 2 years and didn't get to play any ball for 2 years. And so he's still shaking the rust off a little bit. But both those guys are skilled, can pass it, shoot it, good hands, catch everything. Both of them shoot the three, which, can spread the floor out pretty good for us. Both of them have to get stronger, that's every freshman, So, no, I plan on using them. Dante and Frank have a little experience and they're, just bigger physically, but, I think we can play them both at the 4 or 5. We could play those guys together a little bit because they can shoot it. Again, it's a work in progress, Jeff. We trying to muddle through things here, and but right now we're turning the ball over a lot, fouling each other a bunch, and hopefully in the next couple of weeks we can settle that down a little bit.
Listen, I wouldn't expect anything else from you. Then you're always kind of too honest in a way, right? I mean, as a coach, you've been doing this long enough. You know what to expect this time of year. There's always going to be things that you're going to work on. What do you think is the biggest key to this team, Dana, being able to do what these teams have done in the past in Eugene and, winning the league or competing for the league title?
Well, I always stay healthy. That's a big part of any season. As I look back, years we've lost guys, I thought we were right there and we lose one guy or something, last year, losing Dante, I thought, we were a Sweet 16 team, but man, I thought, we could really be good with him throwing the ball inside a little bit. So, staying healthy, sharing the basketball, that's going to be a big part. As you mentioned, you bring in 3 guys that are used to scoring double figures, and I have 2 that score double figures, and I got guys that want the ball. We either all go to the tournament or none of us do. This is an individualized sport, so we better share the ball. And then on the boards, defense, I don't care. You look at, years past and you look at history, if you don't have a good defensive team, you don't make the Final Four. You don't make long runs because one of those games, you're not going to shoot it well and you better guard. And, Baylor winning it last year was just an example to everybody. Their defense, just was, and against good people. You go through the Big 12 and the schedule they played. And so that night in, night out defense, that carries you through a league like that, is something that can carry you through a tournament. And UCLA, they racked up their defense during the tournament, and that's why they made a run. And so I'm sure Mick is emphasizing that to his guys, and USC had a good team last year because their defense was really good. And so, I hope our guys will guard a little bit because, that seems to be a requirement for making a long run.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Pac-12 can pick up where it left off last year in the tournament. I'm a Pac-12 guy, so I was loving it, and hopefully we can do it because that means, I get to stay up late and watch some good games late at night here in Boston.
Well, that Wildcat tale of yours comes out every now and then. But no, I think the last 2 years, Jeff, and the criticism we've received some years has been justified. We've had some years where, we haven't performed at the right times and our teams, but the last 2 years, the pandemic held us back. I think we had 5, 6 teams in that year. And then last year, I thought we had 2 really good years in our league. And
well, in the beginning too, the beginning of the year last year affected a lot of teams in your league. Like look at a UCLA, a USC, some of those teams in California weren't able to do anything in the preseason.
Well, if you remember, the Pac-12, we came out and said we weren't going to play our season. And
yes,
so, we were way behind.
Yeah.
And got started really late. We even started after the other team started, working out in that. We got started late. So, but I knew we had good teams. The last 2 years, we really had good teams. The 2 years before that, we weren't so good. But 16 and 17, we had great teams. And so we've got to be more consistent as a league. But I think we can do that. I think our coaches are good. I think the commitment from the league now is, we've got to put a team, we got to put teams in the tournament. We've got to do well. And so, I think our league is better, and for us to do that, we got to be consistent. We got to have another great year this year, and mixed team can do that. People are really underestimating USC. I think they're really good. They got guys back and brought in some good guys, and Andy's teams are guarding, and so I think they're underestimating them. Your old school Arizona, I think has really good players back. Sean left, a really good team. They would have been in the tournament last year, which nobody talks about. But,
that's right.
They would have been in the tournament last year, and Sean left a really good team. So, I think it's another good year. Washington State's a sleeper. They got good players there, and Stanford. Tad will do a great job at Colorado. We got some new coaches in the league. So, I'm optimistic, and I think it can be a great year for our league again.
Well, one team that has been consistent, the Oregon Ducks. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to join me, Dana, and good luck. And I'm sure I'll see you somewhere along the way this year, rather than sitting at home all year and watching everything on TV. I'll be out and about again.
Well, you'll get out to LA or Phoenix. You'll get, when that weather gets bad.
Hey, I'm not dumb. I'm going warm.
I'll see you in one of those warmer climates. So.
No doubt.
We'll see you then.
Thanks, Dana. Appreciate it. All right, that was Oregon head coach Dana Altman. Now, for more on the Ducks, we bring in Matt Prehm, beat writer for Oregon, has been doing it for a while, knows the program about as well as anybody for 24/7. And Matt, I know you got some new faces, as always, with the Ducks. It seems like it's just every year you've got to learn not an entirely new roster, but a lot of different guys every year.
Yeah, I was actually looking at the roster this morning just real quick, and I counted only 4 transfers from previous schools, and that feels small for Dana Altman's teams. But yeah, it's new faces, whether it's from transfers from 4-year schools, JUCO guys, high school guys. Dana has been one of the most creative coaches out there in creating rosters every single year.
And he's done a great job. I mean, I think he's finally kind of gotten his due, right? With the Final Four run a few years ago. Now, last year doing what he did. I feel like now nationally, and it should have happened earlier, like now considered one of the best X's and O's guys in the country, and also does a great, job recruiting his staff. I wonder, do you think they'll miss like, how much do you think they'll miss Stubbs? I've always said, not that you or I could recruit to Oregon.
Right.
I don't know if I go that far, but Nike helps. Let's be honest. They definitely help. And, I think Stubbs did a good job. But again, is this going to be a major blow? Because McKenna's not a big-time recruiter. Menninger does a good job, but, a lot with Canadian kids. How big of an impact will this be?
Well, I mean, I think you're doing a disservice to Stubbs if you don't say that his departure won't hurt Oregon, because it will. Like, he was pretty instrumental in bringing so many of the key guys to Oregon the last 10 or so years. But I had one coach tell me that it's very easy to recruit to Oregon. As long as you put in the time, as long as you put in the effort, you are going to see success. And Chris Crutchfield, who actually was in, Tony Stubblefield and Crutchfield were in each other's weddings, and they're really good friends. And Crutchfield came to replace Stubblefield after Crutchfield decided to leave Oklahoma when Kruger retired, and he's straight up landed running basically at Oregon, and they have not missed a beat, because this team has 2 verbal commitments from 5-star players. They've landed a JUCO player as well, one of the top scoring guys in the country this past season at the JUCO level. Recruiting has not missed a beat, and I mean, you don't want to do a disservice to Stubbs, but at the same time, you could argue that recruiting has actually gotten better this year than the last year or two, because Crutchfield played a huge part in landing Dior Johnson, who's a 5-star point guard. And you can argue left or right, if he's high, too low, is he a true point guard? But he's just a really good player. And then he's also been the point man for Khalil Ware, a 7-footer from Arkansas that had, I think it was reported, almost a $250,000 deal from the G League, and he turned it down to go to Oregon.
Yeah, listen, Crutch is so well liked in the industry. Has done a great job, obviously, at Oklahoma, helping to build that thing. So I agree with you. I don't think they'll miss a beat, and they really haven't so far. Yeah. This team, I feel like we just kind of, pencil them in now. For an NCAA tournament berth every year, no matter who Dana has. But, this team, I like it. I like their transfers. I think they did a great job in the portal. I think, again, the Biddle kid coming in, I haven't seen him in person, but I've heard great things about him. Dana said it's going to take some time.
Yeah.
But, Davion Harmon can score. Jacob Young can score. Those are 2 veteran guards to put with Richardson. And I love Quincy Guerrier. I do. I mean, I was just at Syracuse the other day talking to Boeheim, and I asked him a little bit about him, and he said, listen, they would have loved to have had him back. I think he wanted to go somewhere where he felt like he could play on the wing. Yeah. And it's always interesting to me, because these kids always say that, go somewhere, and you never know if they're actually going to play in the wing. Like, he's better as a 4, no doubt, but you wonder how much latitude Dana Altman will give him to be able to play some 3 and be able to shoot the ball on the perimeter a little bit more than he has. He was not a great perimeter shooter his first couple of years in college.
I think this team, Dana Altman's done a really good job with finding transfers. I watched your show you did with Gottlieb and Farnham, and you brought up the fact that all transfers aren't created equal, and I think that's the case here with these guys, with Davion Harmon, Guerrier, and Jacob Young, that they maybe aren't a top 10 transfer from a pure skill standpoint, but how they fit to what Oregon does, how Dana will use them, and the fact that all 3 of them were all conference players at their previous stops and now come west to Eugene. I think you could make a case that they had maybe one of the best off seasons in college basketball. Like, 3 all-conference transfers. They sign a 5-star recruit that may not even play a ton because the team is loaded. They get back a top 75 recruit in Isaac Johnson, who was gone on a 2-year religious mission.
Yep.
They signed the JUCO's best scoring player in the country. That's an All-American. I've got their JUCOs crossed up here.
Yeah.
They got an All-American in Rivaldo Suarez.
And they got Nafali Dante hopefully coming back at some point.
Yeah.
I don't know when he'll come back, but Dana, said he's going to miss November for sure. I would expect. Listen, he's probably not going to be 100% until Pac-12 play at the earliest.
Yeah, they're going to have to decide if they want to go with Frank Kepnog at center, or if they kind of want to go back to the well again and what worked for them down the stretch last year, where they basically started 5 guys that were all 6'6" to 6'5". It's going to be a little bit smaller than that this year, but they're going to have to decide if they want to go Quincy at the 5, Eric Williams at the 4, and then roll with Harmon, Jacob Young, and Will Richardson as your guards, which in the Pac-12, there aren't that many big guys that you just really have to worry about. And there are some, and that's where Frank would matter. But if you want to go small, you can, and you can survive and be really good in this league.
How good? Who do you think their best player is going to be? I've kind of, wondered that myself. Is it Will Richardson? Is he a first team all Pac-12 type player this year? I almost feel like they've got, again, those 3 transfers all average double figures for NCAA tournament teams. We haven't even talked about that part of it. That's the cool part. Not only did they put up numbers and they were all league guys, but they did it for teams that were maybe not ultra successful, but at least they were all tournament teams. Is Will Richardson going to be the best player on this Oregon team this year?
I think he might be the best player from a statistical standpoint. I think he's going to lead the team in scoring. I think the pieces that they've added around him will free him up a little bit to be more of a shooter, more of a scorer. So I think he will probably lead the team in scoring. I think he's a candidate for Pac-12 Player of the Year. I voted him first team all conference in the media poll. I think he's that good. I think he's an NBA player if he has a strong senior season. But I go back to Devion Harmon maybe being the most important guy on this team. Will is a very good player, but I don't think he has that makeup where he's vocal and is going to just take over a game and be the alpha like a Peyton Pritchard was, like Chris Duarte was last season, like Eugene Omarui was last year for Oregon, or Dylan Brooks from a couple of years ago. Harmon is what I've been told. Harmon's that type of a personality where he is going to demand everything from his teammates and be at the ultimate best. He's going to be the one that practices the hardest. And then he's going to be the most vocal on the court in games. And so I think Will has a chance to maybe have statistically the best season. But I think Harmon will be the one that kind of stirs the drink, if you will. I think those are going to be your 2 best players, probably with Quincy sliding right behind him.
What are you hearing about Biddle so far? And obviously he's young. Physically, he's probably not quite ready.
Right.
But especially with Dante being out early, do you think Biddle gets a little bit of run as long as he's not a liability, strength-wise and maybe defensively?
Yeah, he's going to play. I think it's going to be up to what you just said is, can he not be a defensive liability from a strength standpoint? And then also from just an understanding of the defensive concepts that Dana runs, because it can be simple and it can be pretty complicated at times. But if he can tread water on the defensive side of the ball, he is going to play, especially with Dante being eased into this season. Dana Altman talked in the offseason. I went down to Pac-12 Media Day, talked about it there, and then we just had a media session about a week ago, and he talked about it again of having 4 guys that are all 6'11" or taller, and the combinations that they can do with the 4 of them and playing them together if they want to. It wouldn't surprise me if we see Dana for maybe just a couple minutes throw out Frank Kepnog, and Fale Dante and pair him with a Biddle. He can shoot threes. He can run the rim. He can block shots. The question is going to become, can he defend the paint? Can he push back heavier players and corral that defensive rebound and box out bigger guys? If he can do those things, he's going to play quite a bit. It's kind of crazy. Like it just speaks, I think, how far this program has come since Dana Altman got here. Of Biddle 4 years ago would be looked at as a player that would have to play 20, 25 minutes a game. And they could argue we need to have 5 to 10 really good minutes.
No, listen, my last question to you was going to be, what's the pulse of Oregon fan? Do they really understand what they have in Dana Altman there? You know, like when he got hired there, I thought about it, I'm like, it's outside the box. I don't know if it's going to work. Dana's not a guy that I think is going to really play ball with Nike and all that, all this stuff going on. He just wants to coach, right? Dana Altman he's a ball coach. So I didn't know if the fit would work in Oregon, but man, it's been unbelievable. I just wonder, do people around there, the casual fans, maybe the diehard fans, understand what Dana Altman has done at Oregon?
I probably not. I mean, I every year or so, I mean, I grew up in Eugene, so I have seen this program from afar for a long time, and I still get kind of blown away at just how good this program has become. I mean, I think you can argue they are the best. They are the most consistent team in the conference in the last 10 years.
No doubt.
And I never would have said they could get to that point in a 5-year stretch.
Over Arizona and UCLA, like two elite programs on the West Coast. Oregon's been better.
Yeah. And I think, so to answer your question, that the average fan probably doesn't truly appreciate it. The diehard certainly does. And I think this has been a perfect marriage for him and the school, because Oregon is a football school, first and foremost. Football is what a lot of the fan base will put a lot of their attention on. And then once the season is over for football, they'll kind of start trickling in over to the basketball side of things. And I think that is 100% how Dana Altman likes it. Yes. You said it. He just wants to coach. Like, he doesn't have to do booster events. He doesn't have to go and meet with these big wigs that want to donate money and they want the inside scoop on the team. He doesn't have to do any of that. And so whenever his name kind of pops up in the off season for jobs, like when his name got kind of floated for Indiana, I just kind of laughed. I was like, he's not going to go to a basketball school. He'll go to a school if he wants to leave that maybe has the resources, but it's a football first school, because he could do whatever he wants for
nobody bothers him.
Yeah.
Right.
And
that's why I thought Nebraska. I actually thought Nebraska was the one, and I think it was the closest of that Dana Altman was going to leave for, was Nebraska, because like you said, most people on the surface would look at it and say, why the hell would he leave Oregon for Nebraska? Well, it is a football school. Yeah. And obviously, he's a Midwest guy. So at some point, does he want to get back to the Midwest? Maybe. I mean, maybe for the right job. I don't know if he'll retire at Oregon, but man, he has done an incredible job. All right, I got one more thing for you.
Sure.
All right. And only because you're closer to it in that program. But I wonder, and again, it's totally off topic, but when Imani Bates picked Memphis over Oregon, I know Memphis has FedEx money. I get that. But Tell me why Phil Knight wouldn't just work out some sort of deal there. Like, if you're Imani Bates, how are you picking Memphis and FedEx? Now, his buddy Jalen Durham was already committed to Memphis, so maybe that played in. But if you're a kid and you're looking at Oregon right now and you're a big time kid, aren't you saying to yourself, hey, listen, if I go here, a Nike contract might be waiting for me, a more lucrative one at the end of this. And oh, by the way, if you're Phil Knight, aren't you saying to yourself, I'm getting older and my kid's name is on the court and maybe we can win a national title here, because like 5 million or $1 million or 2 million or whatever it is, Matt, is like a quarter for us.
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket for them.
Right. So I don't understand that part. I know there are rules and regulations what Dana Altman is allowed and not allowed to do in his staff with some of these recruits. But again, I've said it over and over. All coaches got to do is, hey, here's the phone number. There's the phone number. You handle it, or somebody else get the phone number to Phil Knight or somebody at Nike, and it's done. It baffled. It was a head scratcher to me.
I do know that when Amani Bates made his official visit to Oregon, he had a sit down with Kayvon Thibodeau. And for those who are unfamiliar who that is, that's probably the number 1 draft pick in football this upcoming year. And Kayvon Thibodeau has a deal with Phil Knight and Tinker Hatfield. They have created an NFT for him. They've done a couple other products with Kayvon Thibodeau. And that meeting was set up specifically to showcase what could happen if you come to Oregon, and what current players, guys that are making 6-figure money on NIL deals at Oregon right now today. This is how I'm doing it. This is how the university is helping me market myself. This is how the university is teaching me to do this and to do that. So I would be surprised if there wasn't some kind of meeting or what have you with Bates and Phil or whoever in legal ways, if it could happen, to have that go down. Oregon laid it out. I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau's, hey, I'm going to be the number 1 draft pick, and it's without a doubt he's the best player in football. And he's got to deal with United Airlines. He's got to deal with DirecTV. He's got to deal with Tinker and Phil Knight. He's got a couple other deals. He started a cryptocurrency. So all these things, I was kind of mind boggling, because if you're going to look at it from an NIL deal perspective, Oregon blows
they can beat
Memphis
anybody
out of the water.
They can beat anybody they want, because again, Phil can just reach into Nike's pockets and just say, we can match, we can exceed today. And oh, by the way, if you're as good as people think you're going to be, it'll also pay off in the back end with a Nike deal.
It's going to happen, because about a month ago, this kind of flew under the radar. But Phil Knight, a couple of former Nike Jordan executives that went to the University of Oregon, Tinker Hatfield's involved in it, a couple other marketing scope type people, executives from other industries that went to Oregon, and Sabrina Ionescu, who was the number 1 WNBA draft pick a couple of years ago out of Oregon. She is also joined into this kind of ad agency that they have formed up in Portland.
Yeah.
And that organization is going to help athletes at Oregon land these NIL deals. And I think when the NIL went the way it went, which I'm 100% in favor of, athletes should be able to make money. I think it's going to be the start in 10 years. We're going to look at Oregon athletics, not just basketball, just athletics in general, and say that was a pivotal point where the school went up a rung or two in the pecking order of college athletics.
I think you're right. Thibodeau certainly making some money. I was upset I didn't get to see him play. Took my daughter on a visit to Ohio State, and of course, it's the game he doesn't play. So I was disappointed. So were all the other Ohio State fans walking out of the stadium that day, though. They didn't need Thibodeau that day. So
yeah, that was pretty impressive.
Really impressive. Matt, listen, appreciate it, man. Good talking to you, Matt Prehm, who knows the Oregon program as well as anybody, joining us here today on the Field of 68. Thanks, Matt.